John Lennon's son, Sean Ono Lennon, has revealed something that stops fans in their tracks. He says his father resented having to be a Beatle. Think about that. One of the most famous musicians in history, 1/4 of the band that defined the 60s, and by the end, he wanted out. Not out of music, but out of the machinery that came with being a Beatle. When the Beatles broke up in 1970, the world mourned. Fans cried, the press declared it an end of an era, but for John Lennon, it was something closer to freedom. He had grown weary of Beatlemania long before the split. The screaming crowds, the endless interviews, the suffocating expectations. He loved writing songs. He loved recording. What he didn't love was being trapped inside what he called the pop machine. Sean explains it simply. His father never lost his passion for music. He lost his patience for fame. Enter Yoko Ono. Yoko became the symbol of that break. More than a partner, she was a collaborator, a force that showed him another path. Together, they staged their famous bed-ins for peace. They released the experimental album Two Virgins. They fused art and activism in ways that confounded critics. Lennon saw Yoko not as a distraction, but as a liberation. With her, he could be something else. Not the witty Beatle, not the leader of the band, but an artist, a radical voice, a man chasing authenticity. That pursuit reached its peak in 1972 with Sometime in New York City. It was raw, political, and recorded quickly. Sean calls it proto-punk, before punk had a name. The critics hated it. Rolling Stone called it incomprehensible. Sales collapsed. For a man who had lived at the top of the charts since 1963, it was a shock. Sean insists it was part of his father's growth. The album was messy, it was unpolished, but it carried the spirit of rebellion, the kind of record that broke rules instead of following them. The world wasn't ready, but Lennon didn't care. His activism went beyond records. He spoke out against the Vietnam War. He performed at rallies. He used his platform to challenge the establishment. That made him a target. The Nixon administration feared his influence on young voters. The FBI put him under surveillance. They tried to deport him. Lennon suspected his phone was tapped, so he began recording his own conversations. Years later, declassified FBI files confirmed his fears were justified. Even under pressure, he refused to be silent. What often gets overlooked is that Lennon never abandoned music. The Madison Square Garden 1-to-1 concerts in 1972 proved he still had fire in him. Over the next years, he released Mind Games, Walls and Bridges, and eventually Double Fantasy. Some records leaned political, others were deeply personal. All of them reflected a man trying to balance art with identity. Even when he stepped back from the spotlight in the mid-70s to raise his son Sean, it wasn't retreat, it was recalibration. For the first time, he allowed himself to be a husband and a father before being a performer. When Sean says his father resented being a Beatle, it doesn't mean Lennon dismissed his past. He knew the Beatles changed music forever. What he resented was being defined by it, being locked into a role he no longer wanted to play. His real rebellion wasn't against melody or harmony, it was against confinement.